Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Dennis. So this video is a little different because I have an Intel system that I have got all up and running. I'm going to show you how to install a CPU in case you have had AMD systems for a while and haven't installed an Intel CPU. It's a little different process, but not that different. I'm going to show you the install of the Hyper 212 Evo, the Hyper 212 RGB Black Edition. Anyway, basically the same. Evo, Black Edition, they're all just different names. There's even a new one with a different kind of fan on it now. Anyway, we're going to show you how to install that onto that CPU. We'll give you a quick look at the temps. I ran into issues with activating the M.2 drive on this particular motherboard. So that's going to be another video all in itself. And in that same video, just to add to it, then I will do all the temps and testing of the CPU itself. So I'm going to give you some temps on this just to show you what the temps are at after I've installed it, just to give you a ballpark of where it's at. And that's pretty much all it's going to be. So anyway, if you're interested, stay tuned. Here we go. Okay, so before we go ahead and install our Intel CPU, a couple of things we want to do. First, of course, is our CPU cooler. So we're going to use the Hyper 212 RGB Black Edition CPU cooler from Cooler Master. And I wanted to show you all the things you need for an Intel install. Okay, so we have our cooler here, of course, Hyper 212. All right, so I'll just quickly show you that. Now, I've done the build with this many times. Okay, so if you want to see all the specs and details, you can always go back and watch one of the ones I did on AMD. Of course, there's no thermal paste. You're going to need your own. I have to take this off first. Don't forget that. And on top of that, what you need for the Intel install. So what I did is just to show you what it's going to look like. Is this one right here. And see how I got that? So I'm going to take this off real quick. So you've got this little piece here, which is these. So you've got these ones here. And that's what I've done with this. Okay, so you can see how I got that in here. You got these little ones here. Okay. Goes in this little slot here, straight slot. See, there's a little indentation. And you're just going to slot it in there like that. It's going to be in the middle for the 1200. Now, all you do after that is you're going to put your finger to keep that in place. You're going to take your, where did I put them? Right here. And it's going to slide over top of it. And it's going to go just like this. And it's going to lock in place. Okay, you see these little indicators here? Okay, so when you put it on, I'm just going to show you this. This little catch here is going to slide into that spot. So, but bottom line, once you got all four of those in there, this is going to go on the back of your motherboard. So you'll be looking at it like that after it's put in place. And that's when these screw on top of there. But once I show you everything, that'll be fine. So we got four of these, four of the brackets. Okay, so four of these. And then your little brackets here, and you have two screws, which are going to fasten on the bottom here. Okay, you can see how the indentation goes in. Hope you can see that. You can see how that little indent is. Okay, so the bracket's going to go on there, and you're going to fasten in place. You have a 4-pin connector, and of course you have the RGB connector as well. Let me see if I can get that out so I can show you real quick. And RGB, okay, see there's 4, that's 12 volt RGB. All right, so we have this for an extra fan, your fan splitter, this to tighten down these once you've got them on. These, of course, are all going to go in, and then you have your brackets to go on your cooler that are going to fasten onto your brackets after you got it all in place. Don't worry, you'll see all that afterward. But so I'm going to get that all ready, and then we'll go on and install the CPU and put this on there. So I'm going to try and show you as much detail as I can as we go through. But I wanted to explain that so when this is all put together, you'll know how it happened. So our little box here has all the accessories of everything else we need for a different Intel install, or if it was an AMD build. Now, one thing it does include that you may or may not need Okay, it has a little Molex connector, which why you still use Molex, I don't know. But basically what this does is this plugs in to a little controller that they throw in just in case you need it. So if you don't have adjustable RGB or RGB on your motherboard, this little controller here, all right, see how it's got the different things on it? That's going to allow you to connect to it. So there's a little plug-in right there. Okay, so that's where it's going to plug into. And then you're going to use these buttons to control your colors, theme, mode, all that kind of good stuff. And that's where your RGB would be ordinarily. So they do have a little connector for that. So don't need this. This is all we need, what I've got right here. So we're going to get the motherboard out and we're going to start the install. Okay, so our motherboard's out. I've already done a review in this, so if you look back on the previous video, you'll see all that. But you see these holes here, okay, on the motherboard? So what those are for is that's where when you put a CPU cooler on, it allows you to bring it up. So I'm just going to quickly show you. So this is what we've got. Like I said, everything is poking through. You can see it. So that part, the flat part, is going to be on the bottom. So of course it's just on my motherboard box. So that's the way I'm doing it for demonstration. So if I lift this up and show you, you can see the holes here. So all I have to do now is line it up with those holes. Okay, so once you've lined it all up, okay, you can flatten it back down. It'll stay there because, well, right now, the motherboard box is actually holding it in place. If you're doing this in a case, well, then you'd have to make sure you're holding on to it one way or another. All right, so I want to show you before I put the CPU in. I'm just going to fasten down our little connectors here just to hold that in place. And I'm just going to finger tighten it for now. I will use this to tighten them later on with a screwdriver. Now, again, don't over tighten because you don't want to do any damage or nothing. Take your screwdriver, take this little piece here, put it over top. It'll go on there. And then you're just going to put it on here and just tighten it a bit. Just make sure it's good and tight. Okay, once you feel it tighten, don't keep going, because what will happen is you'll go too tight and you'll damage your motherboard. All right. It's much easier, or you might even strip it or whatever, but you just don't want to damage it. So once you get it on there and it's in there tight, okay, once you feel it stop, okay, don't go too far. Now that we've got that done, our bracket will go on afterward. But before we do that, I want to show you what the pins on this look like. So for those new to my channel, or those that have not installed the Intel CPU before, I mentioned before that the CPU itself does not have pins. On an AMD, it does. On here, okay, so I'm going to push this down, pull it out, okay, and then this is going to lift up. It's coming from underneath here, right? And these are a whole bunch of tiny little pins. I'm going to try and zoom in there so you can see that. So you can see, you can't even really see them well enough, but that's as good as I can get it for you. And then your CPU just goes in on top of those. Again, being very careful. You have your little divots. Okay, I'm going to show you that. I'm going to get the actual CPU out. I'm going to put the CPU in right now, and then we're going to continue. Okay, so I'm getting my CPU out, being very careful. And on the bottom, of course, we have our information on the processor, all that kind of good stuff. And here's our processor itself. Okay, i7-11700K. All right, everything you need to know there. Now I'm going to get this out. I'm going to show you a little bit more here. So here's our CPU, the little plastic package that it comes in. And when you look on the back, you'll see, okay, there are no pins here. These are all just contacts. I don't know if I can show that to you very well. Anyway, but you do have sensitive surfaces, so you don't want to touch those. And all your little contacts are going to be right here. So let's get that back on here. Okay, so focus back in. Now I'm going to get this out and show you how it goes in. Now when you take it out of the box, or plastic rather, the little divots on the side are for your fingers to go into, so you can take it out without doing any kind of damage. Now, something I want to show you. You see the little divots here? You have a divot there and one on the other side right there. All right. So you want to line that up. And you also have, okay, so right down here you can see the little triangle. Okay, so there's a little white blob on your motherboard to identify where that is going to go. So you match those up. But more importantly, if you pay attention to it, you'll see the little divots. Okay, there's one here, and you're just going to line it up, and it just goes in just like that. Very, very simple. So the only thing left right now, I mean, this is the actual installed CPU. This is just all there is. So carefully put this down so it goes underneath this little tab. Okay, now I hold it because I don't want it crashing down. All right, lift this up so that when you're pushing it forward, it's underneath this screw. Now when you push this down, this little plastic cap is going to pop off. Okay, so just be aware. It's not going to sound good. It's going to sound awful actually. Perfectly normal. So don't worry about it. All right, so push this down and you're going to hear it. Okay, it's going to pop off. Bring this out and underneath. Okay, see how that's underneath this little tab? Now be careful with this. Don't lose this. Okay, if you have to RMA it or send it back, you're going to need that. So keep that handy. Hopefully you won't have to do this unless, of course, you're unlucky enough that your motherboard has got something wrong with it. That would be a bad day. All right. So far, everything's going well. We're going to go about and put our CPU cooler on and we'll go from there. Okay, so you can see it, the bracket's on there. All right. So you turn it around. I took the fan off. You got the little cutout here. You see how that's cut out there? You're just going to put it in here and you're going to line that up. And you'll feel it when it's right. Okay, it's going to fit there. But if you do it like that, you're going to have to turn it up the other way to tighten it. So just keep your finger there. Turn it up the other way so you can see it. And you can see, of course, I've left this on. So I'm going to take our screw, put it in here, and just tighten it on. Now, you should tighten on pretty snug. Make sure this is tight, okay? Make sure that's tight. And the only thing left is our thermal paste on our CPU and peeling this off. So I'm going to do this now because I have forgotten in the past. That's off. And now I am ready to insert this without the fan right now on here. So now that's going to go on here and it's going to fasten in. Okay, you might have to play with it a little bit to make them line up. No biggie. But don't forget, peel that off, put your thermal paste on. So I'm going to apply my thermal paste. So the last couple steps in the process is to apply our thermal paste. All right, so you have to be careful with this just because it comes out quite fast. And you don't need a lot, so that's more than enough. All right, you don't need a lot. It spreads. I'm using the Noctua NT H1 thermal paste, just because it's been proven to give slightly better temperatures. So now all I got left is to actually put the cooler on. So that, all I'm going to do is line it up with these holes. Okay, I'm going to try and show you that as close as I can, as easy as I can. Okay, so it's going to line up in here. So now it's just a matter of tightening them down diagonally, and we're done. So when you're tightening it down, you can put your hand on here just to make sure it stays in the holes. I like to go diagonally just to make sure I'm putting the right pressure on all sides so it goes down evenly. And that should result in tightening or spreading the thermal paste properly. Okay, so that's tightened right there. Let's go diagonal again. And we're just going to finish it off. And again, once it's tightening, you'll definitely notice it. And last one. This is the one that's hard for you to see. And fastening, that's all it is. Just tighten them down. So one of the last things you got to do is put our fan back on. And you can arrange your cables how best you like it. I think on the bottom is probably best. And you want it to blow the air from this side out to the back of your case. All right. So these on the bottom, I'm just going to put it here and fasten it on. They have little divots, and that's what these here have divots, and they're just going to fasten in there. So, okay, so that just fastened on there, no problem. You can adjust the height a little bit. So if you have clearance issues with your RAM, so let's not worry about this right now. I just want to show you this. So, looking at your RAM, you have pretty good clearance for your RAM. It's not going to be an issue. I have just some memory right here. And if you put the RAM in, okay, you're going to have pretty good clearance. That is before it even goes into the slot. So you've got about another, I don't know, 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more. So, but again, you can adjust this fan to take it up if you wish to. So on this motherboard, our CPU fan is right here. Again, it's 4-pin. Your tab is on the inside. This little tab here, you want to make sure that lines up properly. And you're just going to put it on here and then just push down. Okay. And then you can tie this up, you know, figure out what to do with it later on. I'm going to probably tuck it in underneath here. But the other cable I want to show you that's most important for your RGB colors is your RGB right here. Okay, so you get your 4 pins I have to plug in. So you have to look for your RGB on your motherboard. So let's find that next. So something I don't like, and I wish this was just a little bit longer, is look how it comes across to the only RGB header on the motherboard. Because you need a 12-volt RGB header. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to get an extension so that I can tuck this away and do something better with it. It'll look fine once I get it in the system, but for now I don't like it because I don't like it sitting there like that. Anyhow, it's on there, fan's on, all right, everything we need. And of course, CPU fan, I already showed you that plugged in. That's it. That's our Series 11 11700K processor installed into this motherboard, which is the MSI Z590A Pro Series motherboard from MSI, which I kind of like until this happened, because normally you have an addressable RGB and RGB somewhere near where you're going to actually need it. But hey, I guess that's just something I have to live with until I get the extension cable, which I will have very soon. So in the meantime, that's what it is. Fan's on, everything's on. Obviously, it's all going to work probably. But we'll find out. I'll power it up and maybe do some temps. So CPU fan's on. CPU cooler's on. It's all plugged in, ready to go. Okay, so I got everything running right now. Now, the motherboard, of course, is not set up. But I just wanted to show you that the RGB is in fact running. And what I did, just for the sake of this video, just to show you as well, is this little controller that I was talking about earlier. So you've got all your different settings here, okay? Different modes. And the middle one is your different colors. And the bottom one is, I believe, the different speeds. So it cycles through the different speeds. Pretty cool looking, actually. And I like green. But what's more important, what kind of temps am I getting right at the moment? So let's find out. So our temps up here in the top, we're at 35, 36 degrees on idle. Motherboard's at 32. There's our voltages. We're running in UEFI mode. And that's our BIOS build date. So 4th of September 2021. So it probably is a newer version, but I'll do that later. Running on 16 gig memory. And sorry, this is our BIOS version. That's our BIOS date. and running at 3.6 gigahertz. I've got the settings all done, and basically I'm going to go F10 and save and exit, and that'll be it. So that's pretty much all I can show you right now. All right, everybody, so that's the video. Hope you like it. I hope it taught you something out of this if you're new to Intel. So there's going to be more videos coming up because lots to do in a very short period of time to get it done. Anyway, you like the video, hit that like. If you're new here, think about subscribing. Hit that bell for notifications of videos as they come up in the future. That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.